All right. Well, so today we have the honor and pleasure, I guess, honor slash pleasure of having Dr. Kimberly Eck as our guest for the Ease of Research Town Hall series. And Dr. Eck is the Associate Vice Chair for Research at Emory, and she assists with developing and implementing university-wide strategies to advance the research enterprise at Emory. And she leads the Office of Research Development and the Training Grant Support Office. And so ORD, the Office of Research Development, provides support and programming to facilitate research partnerships, support strategic planning, identify funding opportunities, form interdisciplinary collaborations, and pursue large institutional training grant awards um, through the Training Grant Support Office. So I'm not sure, Dr. Eck, whether I've given all of the hats that you wear here, but we welcome you to our town hall and are looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for the introduction. I think that we will have plenty of time for questions. I'm going to walk through a slide deck that I use in several other settings. I joined Emory about 5 years ago, and before that, there wasn't the Office of Research Development didn't exist, Training Grant Support Office didn't exist, strategy and competitive intelligence function for the research enterprise. That is all new. It did not exist before. So if you're thinking, gee, I didn't know that we had an office like that, it is not, you are not the first person to think that because, and in fact, it is very new. So it's really, a name was created about 5 years ago when I first joined, but functionally, really only the training grant office kicked off about 4 years ago, and a lot of the research development functions only kicked off about 3 years ago. So this is all still pretty new. I do present this when I see new faculty in orientation, but that's only like the new faculty and they're drinking from the fire hose. And I do a very similar presentation, but I only have 10 minutes to do it. So it has to be very fast. So I'm delighted to be able to unpack a little bit more about the resources here with you all, and then we can, talk about anything that you'd like to talk about that you think I might have an answer to. And I'm very good at saying when I don't have answers to something, and trying to connect you to where that might be. So I'm going to open up my slide deck, and then you all are welcome to drop questions in the chat, or you're welcome to use the raise hand function. Then you should come to the top of my little screen, and if you raise hand, then I should be able to see you, and I can pause. And then, so in other words, happy for you to interrupt me as I'm going through the slides, and we can talk more at the end. Okay, here we go. So, first set of resources that I'm going to mention is finding funding. So we've got a few things here. We do have, and I will give you a copy of these slides for distribution. We have an anchor web page on that research.emory.edu homepage, where we have the collection of these resources. And one of the most important resources that I am pointing researchers to is something called Grant Forward. That is Emory's subscription resource. We pay for everybody who has an emory.edu email address to be able to access Grant Forward and set up an account. This is one of those systems that scrapes websites from all over the place. It does a really good job collecting federal funding. It does an increasingly better job collecting foundation funding opportunities, and it does an okay job collecting industry opportunities. A lot of industry opportunities, as of course you know, are not necessarily publicly advertised exactly. So those are impossible to or hard to capture. But it's a really good one-stop shop. You can go in and search all you want for funding opportunities. But the way to take advantage of Grant Forward is to go in and create a profile for yourself And when you first log in, and because you're associated with Emory, you'll see all these other Emory people, and they have their pictures there and they have their profiles there. And the profiles and the publications that you link, you don't have to link a ton, but link enough, because what happens is Grant Forward uses the publications and then your feedback about what you're interested in to then send you automated emails as funding opportunities come available. I recommend getting a weekly digest from Grant Forward so that you can see, what's come out that might be relevant to you, and then you can tell Grant Forward, I'm not interested in this, I am interested in this, and it will customize over time. If you ever try, we've had this for several years, but in the past 2 or 3 years, we've really begun pushing it because it's gotten a lot better. And we've seen many more people use the system now. It is especially good if you are looking for and really tracking alternative funding sources at this point in time. So the way to do this, the best way, is to set up that profile and have it do the work for you. And we do have a quick start guide here. There's a link here, and there's a link on this webpage that I pointed you to at research.emory.edu, where it gives you a really quick step-by-step. This is how you set up a profile quickly. The other thing is to join Funding Fridays. This is a weekly email that comes to your inbox that you can sign up for, and we track funding opportunities across a series of very broad themes. So it's guaranteed to not be entirely relevant to you, but you are going to see then, something that flashes in your inbox and shows you some of the biggest, most interesting new funding opportunities across some of big cross-cutting Emory themes. And we have been using this to communicate some emergent and new resources as they become available that's relevant to the funding, external funding sort of research ecosystem. So it's a really good email to get. It's the only thing ORA-wide that comes out on a weekly basis. And it's one that, it's a quick, you can read through it in about 20 seconds and figure out if there's anything relevant to you or not, and then move on with your day. So it's a great one to get. We also, over the past year, at the suggestion of the Faculty Advisory Board, rolled up and summarized in one place for the first time ever all of the internal funding opportunities that are available here at Emory. One of the signatures here at Emory is the University Research Council, the URC committee funding opportunity. That is one of that's Emory's largest single seed fund that supports research institution-wide, essentially across all disciplines, and is one of the oldest running in the country. It was established at the recommendation of a faculty committee in 1939. And so I am the administrative partner alongside of my faculty co-chairs who are appointed by faculty council, and just trying to make sure I don't interrupt an 85-year history there. But that's one of those. That there are 30 some other internal funding opportunities available here at Emory. We collate all of the ones, regardless of which center or college or school is offering them. So you can see them all in one place. It is great if you've never paid a ton of attention to what kind of internal opportunities are available. You can sort through them quickly, all in this one table. All right, I see. I was about to go to the next slide. I see something. Oh, good. Thank you for dropping in that link there. Yes, very good. Okay. Let's see. Next slide. That's finding funded. Okay. Info Ready. If you've never heard the words Info Ready, it is just another place to know exists and is sort of connected to this internal funding and finding funding ecosystem that we have here. Info Ready is where our limited competitions are competed. So if there is a funding program that only has a certain number of slots and we're going to exceed those number of slots, or it says only one application may be submitted per institution, those get announced in Info Ready. They're often linked in Funding Fridays, and we'll point you back to the Info Ready competition. And we use InfoReady to administer some, but not every single one of our seed funds. But a lot of offices use InfoReady around campus. And it's not necessarily the cornerstone place for information because it's not entirely comprehensive. But it is another place to go, and especially if you're wondering, ooh, I've just read the solicitation. There is a limit on the number of applications. I wonder if this was competed. You can go to the InfoReady website and see, is there an open competition for this? Was it competing? Has it moved to, we didn't have anybody interested, so now it's on a first come, first served basis or what? You can always contact the Research Development Office and inquire about a limited competition if you come across one and are interested in applying. All right. So proposal development resources. We've got some, I'm going to start with some of the self-service version, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about our hands-on version. Okay, so some self-service. We have taken over the management of something called boilerplate.emory.edu. If you've ever thought, gee, isn't there a description of the research enterprise at Emory or our core facilities or the type of research that happens in the primate center? And I wish I could take that and just drop it into this grant because I'm sure that someone's written it 50,000 times. Yes, that information is captured somewhere. It is on the boilerplate website. Now, it mostly has descriptions of universities, schools, some departments, not all, always happy to add a department if someone is so inclined, core facilities, usually healthcare and more. If you come across something that's out of date that you'd like to update, we would be happy to facilitate that process. We are kind of this was originally created in the School of Medicine. We've taken over management of it for a university as a university-wide resource. We're in a almost perpetual update mode in a lot of ways. And so if you come across something that's out of date, we would love to hear from you so that we can ping the appropriate authors and make sure to get the next version up to date. But there is something there that you can reasonably use and pull from. It is behind the firewall. You just need your emory.edu email address to sign in. And then we were also asked to create a vendor list. So a list of vendors that can provide editing and review for manuscripts and proposals. This vendor list is also behind the firewall. This is something that you have to pay for, but it is a group of vendors that went through a down selection and some initial vetting process. The way I talk about this list is if you were in need of proposal editing or manuscript editing services and you didn't know where to start or who to call, this would be a great list to start with. They've all passed some initial reference check and some marks of experience and match for the type of services that are offered. And that's explained in sort of the header of this document. So you should always do your own vetting, but if you weren't sure where to start, this would be a great place. This is external and in addition to anything that might be available to you internally in sort of the Emory ecosystem. Charles, I see you have your hand raised. You want to ask a question?
Yes, I do. The boilerplate, that used to be oh, I see. It's okay. You have a screenshot there. That was the language library that was set up by the library, right? Initially.
Well, it was really a collaboration between the School of Medicine, IT, and I think the libraries were at some point involved, but now we manage this one.
Okay. Yeah, because we have this start committee within the Department of Medicine, and one of the activities that we have done in the past was to provide from each of the divisions within the Department of Medicine is provide updates to these boilerplate submissions, sort of. But anyway, this is good to know that you are the ones now who are overseeing this.
Yeah, yeah. If you've got updates, we can make sure that you can get in the system and make those changes. There's a way for authors to be able to get in and like edit the content that they're an owner for. So we just got to make sure that you've got the right permission, you or whoever is the appropriate person has the right permission and gets the ping to make those updates.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so more proposal development resources. This is more hands-on. This is, and these are all optional. You don't have to do any of these things, but we offer them. You do not pay for these services. This is the part of what my office does. And so the first thing I'll talk about is ARPA-H. So it is not every day that you see a new biomedical research agency be stood up and start award making in any kind of big way. So watching ARPA-H unfold was really interesting. Emory was really lead on this. As soon as it got signed into law, we were talking about it, and I was presenting to Research Council and RAC and other groups on campus saying, hey, ARPA-H is coming and it's going to look different and operate differently than NIH. And we were projecting how it was going to operate. And it took a whole entire year then for them to finally open the first funding opportunity. And it was just a broad agency announcement that said, send us your good ideas. Dr. Phil Santangelo submitted the day that the portal opened. He submitted his abstract and ended up receiving the very first award that ARPA-H made, period. The very first one that they made. And that's why the First Lady visited last year and toured the lab and toured HSRB2 and that was really cool to be a part of kind of history like that. So we have done a lot with ARPA-H coaching and understanding how this agency thinks. They use a very different set of questions that are called the Hallmeyer questions. And if you want to talk about Hallmeyer questions, we can do that sometime. We can do a whole deep dive on the agency. But they really expect different proposals that kind of get to a different place and have different points of emphasis, and the writing is different, the language is different, the way it's structured is different, their expectations are different. And so we sometimes work with some external consultants who are experts as well, but we'll provide guidance for you if you're developing an abstract for ARPA-H. We've got some materials in the background now that we can provide that give you some templates and some prompts and some kind of frequent barriers or challenges or things that we see faculty doing the NIH way instead of the ARPA-H way. So we've got some cues like that, some resources. And then for full proposals, typically those come up to our mega grant support level and get kind of a comprehensive team support. And so mega grants now next, but ARPA-H, any point in that trajectory of targeting ARPA-H, we're happy to work with you and provide guidance, provide review, provide comprehensive proposal development support. You just have to contact us, totally optional, and let us know that you want that. For mega grants, if you are preparing a proposal that in total cost is requesting $10 million or more, you can request mega grant support. This is when we bring a team of individuals that provide comprehensive, tailored support to your team and your proposal. Looks a little different for every single team because every team operates a little bit differently. But it's really what we try to do is bring soup to nuts, wraparound support. Sometimes it means a lot of project management. It means often a very intensive iterative budget development. It means wrangling all of the additional material that needs to go in alongside the scientific narrative. Sometimes even drafting some of the non-scientific sections. If you are preparing something like that, you let us know as soon as possible, and we'll do everything that we can to work you into the schedule. It's still provided as an at availability, but about 18 months ago, we were really needing to decline some people, but we've altered our staffing now. I think we're kind of at we're right size to be able to mostly be able to support the requests that come in. So If you got a mega grant and you want additional support, let us know. Over the past 3 years, we've helped teams secure $140 million through the mega grants program. So that's been a really big success for us. That's huge numbers for a really short time period, which is a reflection of how fantastic the team is in supporting, and also how amazing and appropriately aggressive and resilient the faculty members are in going after large awards. And then training grant support. We have a whole office really tailored to training grant support. At Emory, when I joined, we had about 24 institutional training grants. Until this week, I would have said now celebrating that number is 32, because we had a goal. One of the most common training grant mechanisms is T32s. So I wanted to get to 32 T32s. And we were there, but then we got some terminations. So anyway, we're not there actually today, but we're going to get back there. The training grant team is very intentionally focused on those institutional training grants. They will help you prepare the tables. It does not have to be NIH. If you've got an alternative funder that is supporting an institutional training grant mechanism, we're happy to pursue that as well. But most of the ones that we work on are NIH, but we're not limited to that. And we can also advise on evaluation design. We also advise on frequently strategy in terms of timing and sort of a size number of slots based on information that we hear back from reviewers and the program officer and our peers. We have also established a national training grant cooperative. So we're really kind of nationally leading the conversation on training grants. And if you're interested in pursuing one of those, we're happy to work with you. Similarly, contact us as soon as reasonably possible, and then we can get engaged. Now, constructive collisions events are something that we bring interdisciplinary teams of faculty together, and we force them to talk to each other, and we use some fun disarming mechanisms to do that. You can see in some of the pictures, the faculty members were wearing a sandwich board that said the kind of expertise they need and something that they could offer on the back. That we were doing a March Madness tournament style bracket for determining the mission of a center. We've done all sorts of things, pitch days and different things like that. But we have transitioned to always doing these types of events in partnership with an existing entity. That could be a center, it could be a department, it could be a university-wide interdisciplinary initiative. And so you have to ask us, hey, would you facilitate an event for us? And then we can do that. But we always do these now in partnership, and we advertise them to the Emory research community. And we tailor the events activities to the goals that you want to achieve. And so sometimes that means agreeing tentatively on a new mission for the center. Sometimes it means just building enthusiasm across a larger group of interdisciplinary researchers for a topic of interest, and anything in between. So we are happy to partner with you on those types of constructive collision events. So another resource that is available to you, but you have to pay for, this is positioned as a post-award resource. And we can provide project management and evaluation. So we have a service center established through our Office of Cost Studies. And I position this as, this is not your first stop. Like, you should always pursue all of the normal mechanisms that you get project management for your externally funded project or internally funded project for. So usually that means you're writing a project manager into your grant, and they're going to work on it full-time, part-time, however much time. Do that. Still do that. I don't need to know about it. You still do that. Same with evaluation. If you usually work with a particular external evaluator, build them in as a sub to your proposal, still do that. Where we can help is if you get caught in between. So Maybe your project manager, you haven't been able to hire them, or you know you're not going to be able to hire them until 6 months into your project, and you need some project management support at the beginning before you get to actually the permanent person. We could step in then if you needed us to. If you, or maybe, your project manager needed to step away for a few months and they're going to come back, or someone quit and you're going to hire a new person. We could step in and fill the gap if you needed us to. If you get to the end of a project and you realize, oh, I didn't do any evaluation, I should probably do something before I go in for my re-up, then perhaps you need some external evaluation and we can pinch hit in that situation. Or your external evaluator retired. Yes, we can come in and do some external evaluation. We tend to be pretty time efficient. So although you do need to pay for it, it is only the direct costs of time, or if there's any like additional things that are materials that are needed. And we're usually pretty time efficient. So it's very good for that temporary, part-time, we're just in startup mode kind of project. And the people who have used us, most of the time it's been like a short term. Oh, you worked with us on preparing the mega grant. Now we've got the mega grant award. Would you help kind of kick us off? Or we realized we needed evaluation, and the evaluator we usually use isn't available, but we really need it right now. Could you do the evaluation? So we've got evaluation and project management experts in our team, and then we can deploy them and set that up. So if you get into a pinch, we can do this. The other component that we've built out as a product part of the Project Management Evaluation Service Center is what we've seen, especially with ARPA-H, is that they have this strong expectation that if you build in a full-time project manager into your budget on day one, before they are making the award to you, they want to know who that person is. And what we have been able to do is establish a relationship with a couple of part-time staffing vendors that specialize in this kind of scientific and project management area, where they will pre-source some potential whatever you need, project managers or something like that, that you can actually write into your grant and leverage their resume without hiring them and without at the proposal stage without paying the vendor anything. And so we've established this relationship. We've piloted it a couple of times. It's worked out for us so far, although we haven't ended up the ones in process. One, we know that we were declined for the award, but I mean, that happens. But it was really good. It came across in reviews that the reviewers like, wow, they've got a strong team, even though these people that we're naming as project managers don't yet work at Emory. So it is a strategy for specifically ARPA-H because of their very kind of different approach to things. But anyway, that is a relationship that we've developed as a part of this. Okay, now this used to say May 2025, this is happening, but now I say sometime in 2025 because the very last they were saying up a few days before March 25th, NIH was saying, yep, we are definitely still moving to the Science CV platform on May 25th, but they missed the 60-day deadline to release this new set of forms into the Science CV platform. And, I mean, NIH is dealing with a few things, so I understand why they missed that deadline. So we know it's postponed, but we don't know how long. And I do not think it's postponed indefinitely. I think sometime later this year, we are going to actually be required to make the transition to Science CV. If you haven't heard about this yet, Science CV is a platform that helps you manage your BioSketch and your pending and current support, or your that comprehensive picture of the support that you have. NSF is already requiring this use. They've been requiring it for over a year. NIH was going to make the move. They postponed it. And then May 25th has been the date for a long time. They were really going to do it May 25th. And then they said, nah, we postponed it. We've done tons of training, and we've created a lot of resources on this because you really are going to have to transition to this. The instructions to creating your biosketch, they look the same. That part doesn't change. What you have to include in your biosketch doesn't change. You just have to do it in this platform. There's recordings, there's PowerPoints, there's step-by-step guides, all on the Research Compliance and Regulatory Affairs webpage there where it says research security. Lots of helpful resources there. If you haven't begun to plan and make this transition, you should start doing that now. There's no harm in using Science CV. You can use Science CV today to create a compliant biosketch for NIH. So there's no harm in using the current version of the Science CV platform to do that. And you are going to have to make this transition later this year. We just haven't heard the new date that they plan on. So, and everyone's going to have to do it because it's going to be for new stuff. It's going to be when you're submitting your RPPRs. It's going to be for you'll have to submit your support information when you respond to just-in-time requests. So every single person who has an NIH award or is applying for an NIH award is going to have to make this transition. So it is a big transition, and we've been talking a lot about it. Last slide. Federal updates. If you haven't seen this website yet, this is where we are putting all of the factual, very specific information about what's happening with federal updates and how things are changing that might be impacting the research ecosystem. So it is what has happened. It's not projections about what might happen. It's not capturing like what the latest talking heads are saying. It is what has actually happened, what has come out, what has been communicated by an agency, or what are we witnessing the agencies doing or not. It's all captured here. And so this is I think a good distilled down version of, I just need to know what's relevant to me and my research and the agencies that I work with right here. And our current advice for researchers is continue to submit proposals. Make sure you're reading, triple checking, double checking again, the language that is in the RFA, because there have been instances where RFA language is updated, but it is not highlighted. It's not announced that it's updated. It's not bolded. It is not indicated in any way that a change has been made, but it has been changed. So double check your RFA language. But the reality is the overwhelming majority of awards are not affected at this time. Like there are things that have been terminated, yes. That came out in Funding Fridays this morning. You can, see the announcement that was included about the number of terminations and which schools have been affected. Yes, but it is a very small percentage of awards. So continue to submit proposals. Some other universities have slowed down on proposals. Don't do that. Continue to submit and continue to spend on your awards business as usual. Spend on your awards. There was an instance where NIH and ERI Commons, there was a few days where they took away our ability to do our internal process of reviewing and approving that first 12-month extension. They took that away with no notice, no communication, and then a few days later it came back. And so I just mentioned that to kind of indicate, like, we don't know what will ultimately end up happening in terms of process as usual doesn't necessarily apply always, but so if you're trying to squirrel money away, it's not guaranteed that you're going to have access to that funding as we get into no cost extension territory. So our recommendation is submit proposals, spend on your awards. Okay, that is my last slide. Let's see, what else do I have in the chat? Okay, great, a couple of other links. Happy to take questions.
Kim, I want to start by saying that this is wonderful, right? It's wonderful for our research office team, not just for the faculty. I hope more people will see it even once we post it, but even for us. And I can speak by, our new program coordinator is Kanika, and Kanika has been working with your office a bit, trying to learn more things. But Charlie, aren't you surprised by how much we didn't know sitting as leadership in the Medicine Office of Research, right? With
Yeah,
all these efforts which are going on.
yeah, I have a little bit shocked. Excuse me. I'm speechless here. Um, yeah, I didn't realize actually a lot of those activities that you are now this is the Office of Research Development, right? That is overseeing this. I mean, I've been involved with some T-32s, and I guess those are the people that have been reaching out to me for for data um, on these various T-32s, but like namely my biosketch and the status of trainees on previous T-32s. Um, I was interested also in that vendor list. So I'm not sure I heard about the details of that. Those are people that you have identified who would be willing to for a fee work on proposals or manuscripts. Is that correct? That's impression is correct.
That's right. We contacted over 70 vendors and then whittled it down to a group of 13 that kind of passed all of our checks. You
Um,
should always still do you still do your review of a vendor and do they have the right experience for you? But this is a group that we're putting out there as at least going through some initial vetting and being interested in providing this service to Emory.
do we have any data on like they've worked with Emory investigators and feedback from them, from the investigators?
So no, I have invited folks to let me know if they do interact with any of these vendors and how it goes. And I've also, procurement wasn't interested in setting up any kind of like additional arrangement with any of them until it was clear that there was a lot of interest in one particular vendor or another. So right now it's just a resource that's out there, and we're interested in hearing feedback.
Because we have Janet Gross, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said this is like if you don't know where to go, like people should use Janet Gross if that is a match for their skill set, if she's available, if they've got the, right link up with her. Absolutely. It is in no way detracting from what she does. It was something that we were specifically requested to by the provost office to provide to the Emory community.
So, Kim, I don't know whether with the present plans to try to limit some of the expenses on discretionary, whether they are still encouraging that. We had to put our Janet Gross program on hold because of the budget cuts. Have you heard anything about that? Whether discretionary is because you can't really pay for these services from the grants. So it is normally discretionary money, which is either salad money or other discretionary money. I don't know if you have heard anything, whether we can continue to use that sort of funds.
So I have not heard anything specifically, and each academic unit and division is implementing the guidelines from, university-wide budget office slightly differently based on, I think, a lot of conversation and what makes sense for their unit. So that question would have to be explored with, I think, your leadership and how they think about it and the guidelines that they're negotiating.
Yeah, no, thank you. Because we say, well, you're absolutely right. That will come from School of Medicine and Department of Medicine. And so far, it's mainly been about cutting down expenses such as hosting and stuff. So, yeah. Okay, thank you.
I have a question and a statement too to add, Kim. So first off, I love that your department does all these things because I get PIs that come to me. Either they book with me or email me for a one-on-one consultation for PI consultations. And we get some new faculty that come in, and ask for assistance in finding how do I find funds for starting with what I do, right? And I have a go-to in your department, and she is so great. Oh my gosh, like I go to her all the time, and she gives me a lot of information too. Um, and I give some of this information to the PIs. Because sometimes, they just need some hand-holding sometimes. Like if you give them all this stuff on the internet, right? And it gets overwhelming because there's a lot. How do you hone in? How do you, narrow what is what I do and what is offered out there and what can I possibly obtain, right? And so speaking to a person kind of helps. So I go directly to her, and she gives me all the information, or I even direct the PI to her regarding that. So I feel like, it's great to have all this information, but at the same time, it's good to have like that human touch, right? That human connection, to assist the PI in getting what they need, right? To get things started. Because there's a lot of work up ahead, right? To get things down and regarding deadlines and such, right? So I appreciate all that you do. And that seems to be working for me so far. Erica hasn't complained at all. She's been great. So that's my process. That's how I do it with PIs that come across my desk.
Great. Well, thanks, John. I'm glad that we can collaborate in that way. And there's, things like that. There's some like services that we don't advertise because if we advertise, oh, we'll help you find funding for every single individual that is in the Emory ecosystem, we would be overrun, right? That's all we would do. So we don't advertise stuff like that. But we also generally don't tell people no unless we like really need to, right? So where we can collaborate in that way and get somebody off on the right track, we try to do that.
Yes, exactly. So you nailed it because like PI consultations is not advertised in a huge manner because it's only me that's doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like the service is there. I'm here for you. I'm here to consult. But at the same time, it's like I'm only one person, right? So I feel for y'all too. I get it.
Kim, I think we will start advertising some of these things in our newsletter and other ways.
Great. I'm going to email you right after the slide set.
Yes, and I think Kanika, some of the things which Kim spoke about, which is that ability to go into the, visit Emory has bought this thing, which helps us find grants which are applicable to us. And maybe something we can use in the DOM as well, as you and Charlie sometimes look for grant opportunities, and we all look for grant opportunities to, um, showcase for our investigators in our newsletters. And then the Friday funding one, we have tried to make sure that all our faculty are getting the Friday funding one because we don't want to double effort here, Kim. You guys are doing some effort, and we want to make sure that we are not just doubling on that effort and sending something out which is similar. So we will work on that as well with you. So yeah. And I think every one of our newsletter can have a sort of a link to the Friday funding one, which will be helpful.
Great. Awesome. Okay.
Does anybody else in the group have any questions for Dr. Eck?
Just a tiny question about some of the funding opportunities. Are some of them like like industry sponsors or like foundations? Like what's like the percentage breakdown of like where these are coming from?
In Grant Forward.
Yeah.
So actually, the number of we just recently looked at the number of sponsors, and sort of by definition, the federal sponsors are a smaller percentage, and then there's many private sponsors because there's like so many more different ones, right?
Yeah.
So like because of that, there's actually I think Grant Forward does a very good job in covering the federal funders. Like they have as close you could reasonably get to 100% coverage of federal. And then with foundations, there's actually more foundation opportunities. And there's also like increasingly industry opportunities in that. So it's a pretty good mix, but it will never be, it always gets the kind of big foundation stuff, but it will never be perfect because there is no single source of foundation information or industry information. We are looking at, we're considering beginning to advertise something that I'm a part of and some of our folks are a part of that is a place where industry opportunities do get specifically kind of collated. And we were in evaluation mode for a while because it wasn't what they were capturing wasn't particularly relevant to Emory faculty, but they've got more things that are relevant. And so we're thinking about adding that to the list of places that faculty members would be able to go in and search specifically for industry opportunities. And I think we'll end up rolling that out over the next year.
That's exciting. I know like I'm on a team that we do a lot of device studies and with like the federal stuff in flux, we're just trying to seek out other opportunities. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can, you know what? I'll send you a link to the site. And if you get in there and take a look and give me some feedback about it, that would be really cool because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as it like a group that's kind of that would be more aligned. Like, do you feel like this would be valuable for us to put into the mix of kind of things that are out there? It's actually, we don't have to pay for it. Like the industry partner ends up paying for it. That's their model. So it's no cost. It's just a matter of attention and eyeballs and management and that kind of thing. So I'll send you the link and then I'd love your feedback on it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Drop me your email and I'll email you afterwards. Okay,
Sure.
cool.
Rock.
Got it. Rock. All right, cool. Yeah, that's like keck. Mine's keck.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Not a
Kim,
question, but
I have one. Oh,
okay. No, sorry, just quick, not a question, but I went to one of the research development community forums and there's a presentation on Grant Forward, and especially if researchers or PIs can set up their own saved searches and their own profiles in Grant Forward, it will automatically email you any new opportunities that come up. So you don't even have to do a lot of physical work going into the website.
That's great.
I mean, I've been using Grant Forward for many years, but I don't think I've updated things for a while. But from what I'm understanding from you now is that it might be worthwhile to go back in and get updated.
Yeah. Yeah, you should update it. John, did you have another question?
I'm just wondering about the temperature of finding funding right now, especially with this current administration. Are y'all finding it more difficult, or do you have to be more creative, more pressure in finding something for somebody?
So, the overwhelming majority, like, 90% of stuff is still going into the same RFAs, the same parent announcements, the same places. 90% of stuff. Climate change, no. And then, all of the work around gender identity and DEI, there's programs that were specifically set up to diversify the biomedical workforce. Like some of those things are going away. They either have gone away, they are going away, but that's not the bulk. So there is this major disruption in a portion. If you do climate change, which we do not have a lot of researchers at Emory that do climate change, but if you do climate change, like you're really now like, ooh, I don't know where to go. Or if you do exclusively work in DEI or gender identity, then you might be really, really impacted. But the bulk of things are not impacted in that kind of way. But I would say that every RD professional in the country is now advising their faculty, hey, you should take a harder look at foundation and industry sponsors. So, and also what we have observed in our internal funding opportunities is a significant increase in applications. And so, which is no surprise to me, of course. Our faculty are tenacious and they've got ideas and projects that they want to pursue, and they are looking for funding, right? And we have seen a somewhat of a slowdown, and there was a gap in time where different advisory committee study sections weren't meeting, right? But those are getting rescheduled. But there will be some level of slowdown just by the nature of not as many people processing some of the work and it needing some additional reviews. So the bulk still going to the same places. Some people really affected, but it's not actually the majority of work.
Thanks.
Okay.
So Kim, one last thing is that I've been wondering about since you've been giving your talk is that you know, departments like ours, Department of Medicine, you know, we have a bunch of of announcements for sort of proposal support and development, but I guess I'm just wondering about coordination with your office. Is that, I mean, do you look around at the other departments in the School of Medicine, for example, that you know, might be you know, it's like repetitive type stuff. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about here is just that we're replicating things that you can get it in a more centralized.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly my question is at this point, but it's like, you know, how can we coordinate better, I guess.
Yeah, so we do pay a lot of attention to that. And our research development community that Kanika mentioned, that's where we try to bring everybody who does some type of research development. And when I say research development, that's really any activity that's aimed at increasing the resources available for research at our institution. So that can be a lot of people. They might do research development some of the time or a lot of the time, and they may or may not be called research development at all, right? We invite them to come together to help have those conversations. And when we started, you know, we had maybe like 2 people around the table who weren't on my team. And now we had like a full room. We had the 25 or 30 people from across campus. So Department of Peds was a really early partner of ours because they also do a lot of work in, you know, research development, even though it might not explicitly be called that. So we try to actively partner when we find those people. And if there's someone that you think that I haven't found, I would love to invite them to research development community and do like an intake meeting where we understand what's being offered and what we offer versus what they offer. But usually we're, you know, we typically, unless it's ARPA-H, we usually don't work with PIs that are like working on the individual level of anything. And that, you know, more foundational, I'm working on my K award, I'm working on my first R01, I'm going for my second R01. Those types of supports are done by entities that are like the CSTA or departments or, you know, some other group on, or sometimes there's a gap and no one does it for certain groups. Because I was doing a little experiment with someone in surgery who did not have that kind of support. And I talked to the chair and no, really, they don't have that kind of support. And yeah, anyway, so we do very actively try to understand what's available and what's not available. And then when we have a large mega grant, for example, going out of PEDS, we partner usually with a couple of the folks in PEDS to bring that team approach to the to that big proposal. So let me know if there's more conversations to be had.
And I'm sorry, but when you say partner, you mean like getting um all the regulatory stuff together and all the what does partnering involve exactly?
Well, it looks a little different depending on each proposal. So, like, for example, if we're supporting a $10 million proposal coming out of PEDS, then we'll ask PEDS, like, hey, we'll tell them, hey, like, this is, we got this request. And a lot of times, Stacy's the one referring them, the BI to us, saying, hey, do you guys want to support, right? And then we'll talk together with the research development leading folks in their group, as well as their research administrators, and create a shared plan of how we're going to support that proposal with input from the PI's team about what they need. And so sometimes that means project management. We often schedule red team reviews. We often do, yes, the compliance checks, but of course, RAS does that regardless. And sometimes creating the non-scientific sections, often wrangling all of the attachments. And for the, what's that?
Helping with the subaward and stuff, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're it's a little bit of a war of attrition right now, but I think it's because we're at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I mean I've learned a lot here actually, and yeah, I'm going to be clicking on all those links shortly.
Great. All right. Awesome. Thanks for having me. Talk to you later.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Yeah,
Dr.
hopefully we'll see you again.